Down here in Mesquite, coming here off the very back shore down on the Matagorda side, over here next to Cedar Bayou and the mouth there, that whole back shoreline, all this over here to the shell. Man, there's tremendous amount of grass. You go if you fish that area a lot or fished it a little bit, you know that there's a little drop edge that's out there, and there's been fish that's been hanging out either on the drop or been up close to the shoreline, a little bit in between. So just about anywhere up on that. It's kind of been sporadic. The last few days have been hit and miss for me, but we've still caught fish. It just hadn't been great numbers by anything, but we're still catching some fish along the way. Main thing that those things have been around has been the majors and minors for us. In between those time frames has been extremely difficult, at least for guys that are throwing artificial. It has, but again, the thing that you want to be able to always, no matter where you fish, whether it's up in Mesquite or down in Estes or down in the upper Laguna, it doesn't matter. You always got to have two things in play first and foremost, and that's structure and bait. And that's the two things that you want always. So everywhere that we have been fishing, structure and bait has been constant. We want to try to make sure that we have a major or minor that's coming, or we're fixing to be into one, or we can work our way through to it, and and being patient. So again, we've been in these transition days, and they've been tough. The transition days for artificial people, at least for me anyway, have been extremely difficult. Again, like I said, we've found fish, but it hasn't been an easy thing. So that's just part of the growing pains of throwing artificial. That some days you just have to wade through it, no pun intended, but you just have to, again, the patience games comes out with that, and you try to find the little bitty things that you find a pattern with that, and when that takes place, then you kind of stick to it and work it and work it and work it until you get the production that you want from it. The main things that we've been throwing down in this particular area, the water's been very clean. Looks really good. Great. Again, the grass is spectacular in there. Great potholes. Tremendous amount of bait. So we've been throwing a lot of translucent baits. The mirror lure, Little John's, golden red glitter, kitchen sink. Been throwing that. Been throwing the down south burner shads and the supernatural, acid rain, mud minnow have all been very good. Firecracker as well has been good. Dirty tequila in the down south in the original. For the knock and tail lures, we've been throwing the heavy metal mainly with that, with mixed in with the Rogue. They've all been somewhat productive at moments or times, so it hasn't been, like I say, there hasn't been any one particular thing or one particular bait that's just been knocking it out of the park consistently good. So again, transition days can be tricky. Sometimes they can be good to you, and sometimes they can be just flat ugly to you. So, and they've been ugly to us for a little bit. We're ready to get to that full moon phase and to work these areas. Our water levels have been good. Good reports with people fishing the surf. So if you're right there around Cedar and you want to go on out to the surf, if you got the right kind of day for it, take your shot out there and go and see if you can't find some birds working up and down the shoreline somewhere. But I've heard that there's been some good things that's been going on out there. Again, but it's been, it's kind of been a hit or miss thing as well. And that's been the consistent thing over the last few days. So just continue to be patient with this area or any area that you're going to fish. That may be the trend, or that may be the thing that's going on at the moment. So just continue to work in and around these areas. Incorporate majors and minors, your bait, your structure, all your little things that's got to be stacked in your favor. Paying attention to what your winds and all that kind of stuff doing, because our weather patterns have been very nice but very difficult to fish as well. All back here on the backside of mud has been pretty good along that drop edge. It's right there. If you fish back behind here, you know exactly where I'm talking about. You got a nice shallow edge on one side of it, and you got the bar that's there, then you got a little drop there. We've been wading those areas, finding some nice trout up and down that bar, that gut that runs back behind here on mud. Get back up in some of the little back lakes there and throwing topwater back in there. Had some decent success with that particular area, getting a few blow-ups here, a few takes, and then when you have the right amount of water that's back in some of these areas, then it can be very good. That's fluctuated quite a bit for us here lately. We've had a little bit of water come back in the last couple of days, but prior to that, the water levels had really dropped out, so it's kind of took those out of play for us as far as productivity goes. The fish just were not going to be hanging into that kind of area. But once we got a little bit back and the bait continued to push back up in there, then that's when the activity kind of kicked back up here in the backside here on the lake. This whole area here against the mangroves, all the way over here in the shallower flats, you got a bunch of back lakes that are there. You got shell that's mixed in here. You got some decent A little bit of mud. You don't really need the mud right now because the fish are not specifically holding that. We're starting to locate pretty consistently now around shale, hard packed sand, and those types of areas. And all this area here on the backside of mud gives you those options. You get out here on the point of mud, all the way out here to close to where the ICW is. You got a nice little edge that's out there on both sides. Spectacular grass, amazing amount of bait that's working in there. Then we're finding some trout that are hanging out in these areas. You come to the front side, hard packed sand all over. You got guts, you got channels, you got grass, you got everything that you want on this front side, all the way down to the ranch house. Any of these areas here, if you've got those kind of things that are working for you, you've got bait that's working in these areas, which we have. You got the hard packed sand that's working in there, which we have. You've got some cuts that come through there, which is there. So those are things that you always want to look for. You get some little flow, a little current, whether it be wind driven or tidal driven, either or, something that's going to create you a little bit of current that's coming through there. So when you locate those things with some bait work in there, and you got a little major or minor that's kicking into play for you, then that type of thing will really, you'll give yourself an opportunity to find and catch some fish. We've been working the points down here. We've been working the ranch house shoreline on either side of the jetties there where the workers come in and out of the house. Those places have held some fish periodically, not consistently, but depending on the day that you get there, you'll locate. Again, we're in our wild card days, so we're fixing to get into that full moon phase here. So your points of emphasis when that takes place is going to be your early morning time frame and your late evening time frame. You'll give yourself an opportunity to catch some nice fish during those times. Midday bite during that time frame is extremely difficult. So just want to keep that in mind if you have a target frame as far as time goes that you want to look at and try to get and find and catch you some fish. Again, the main things that we've been throwing has been the down south, have been in the, depending on what your water clarity is. Up in here, the water's been just a little bit more stained, so we've thrown a little bit more darker stuff. So Twisted Tea, Purple Rains, White Ice, Bone Diamond has been good. Texas Roach has been pretty good in any of your sizes, in the super all the way down to the burner. Still incorporated the Big Papa Pearl in there. That's another great flavor as well that's been pretty productive for us. Marker 54 shrimp have been good. There's been a lot of these fish that are, when you're catching them, they're spitting up shrimp, little bitty baby shrimp. So if you've got the new size frame from Marker 54 on their popcorn shrimp size, get you a package of those and throw them on your boat. If you're going to throw with those and you start seeing that, be a great thing to change over to, and you'll give yourself opportunities with those. It's a terrific little bait, comes in multiple different flavors. So just get you some of those and give them a whirl, and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised with them. In the knock and tail, again, Rogue has been the main thing there. And of course, greenback has been very good for us in those two flavors, primarily up here in this area. Again, our main key things that we're focusing on when we're getting to these areas, trying to incorporate a major or minor for us. That has been the most productive time frame for throwing artificials here of late. Anything in between that time frame, we're really having a little bit of struggle to find and catch fish. They're there. We're just having a hard time getting them to eat what we're trying to offer to them. So always keep you a little bit of different things as far as something to offer to these fish during these time frames when the catching becomes a little bit more difficult. And that's going to be more a consistent thing as we move into the later spring and summertime, as that pattern will develop for you. You'll have a time frame where you can catch them, and you'll catch them pretty well, but then it'll get that lull period, so you'll have to really grind on them to locate and see if you can't get a hold of them. But those are the flavors we've been using. That's the key things that we've been focusing on up in these areas. Outside of Swan Lake area here in Copano Bay, all the way down, some into the back lake areas, but mostly we've been fishing on the outer edges out here on the hard packed side of it. Grass, a little bit deeper water, thigh deep to waist deep. We have located some nice fish, some solid box fish, if that's what you're looking for, but we have found some decent fish that are hanging in on this area here, all the way down and around on the point, here on the drop on this side here, coming off the back side of Swan. We've located a few redfish here on the inside. Of course, this flat that's right here on this outer side here between that and Rattlesnake gets pretty skinny at times, depending on what our tide's doing. So you have to make sure that you make an account for that right there. But you come on down in the shoreline, working all this back shoreline here, even out in the middle a little bit. We have found some fish periodically up and down this here. You've got a little bit more. It's not terrible mud. It's a little squishy mud. The real bad stuff is on the back side of the islands, just on the opposite side of there. That's where the really, really squishy stuff is. We have not located much of anything there. Everything's been out on the front side, which has been primarily trout. Occasional redfish here on the back side of Swan. We're throwing a bunch of different baits in here. We're just what I've mentioned earlier in the other two videos is, man, we've been throwing the down south originals, down south supers, down south burner shad. All three sizes of that have all been somewhat productive at different points in times of our fishing day. If you got multiple people in the water, somebody put something on a little bit different and see if you can't narrow it down a lot faster and see if there's a particular color, particular profile side that they want. And that way, everybody can get on the same page and start rocking and rolling and trying to locate and zero in on those fish when you need them. Again, scattered redfish up here on the downside, on this back here. In the again on the knock and tail, the same two flavors mainly is the greenback and the rogue have been very productive for us. Also in the again what I mentioned earlier in the marker 54, in the popcorn shrimp and the regular jerk shrimp. Again, those have all been very periodically productive for us at times. So again, if you have all these flavors and these sizes and these types of baits that are in your box, then you're going to give yourself a great opportunity to find and catch fish consistently. Right now in our wild card days, that's been very difficult, is being very consistently finding and catching those fish on a daily basis. It's been sporadic. Some days have been okay, some days have been kind of tough, but again, that's those wild card days that offers you during this time frame. Again, we've got the full moon that's going to be approaching to us here shortly, probably the next 4 to 5 days. We should be into that 10-day time frame in that window. So again, your early mornings and late evenings are going to be your main points of emphasis in which you're going to want to fish. If you decide that you want to fish in midday during that time frame, just understand that patience will be a very key for you to find and locate fish during that time frame. Out here on the outer edge, again, water's been a little bit more clean, so we've been throwing a little bit more translucent baits in here. And then when on the inside of Swan, where it's a little bit more off color or stained, we've been throwing a little bit more darker baits. So whatever you want, whatever particular brand that you want to throw or go with, that's fine, as long as you're incorporating that color scheme into that type of water is what you want. Again, we're still throwing 16th-ounce jig heads. Even in the deeper stuff, it still allows that bait just to float and just to kind of work through the water just a little bit better, especially when the fish are a little bit more difficult. They're being a little coy, and they don't want to just be very aggressively eating anything. So we give them a little bit more time to look at and think about it and say, yeah, I think I will. So anyhow, that's where we're still throwing the 16th ounce because it's still in our favor to do that. Again, majors and minors, remember Copano gets to be a little rough son of a gun for you if you got particular winds. We've been on the low side of the wind, so it's been pretty good early, but we've picked up in the winds in the afternoon. So just always take that into account when you're fishing up in these areas.